who's going to share a presentation entitled Re-Territorializing Identity through Fromm's Existential Philosophy. So, Dr. Pacquing, if you're ready. Yes, sir. Magandang hapon po. Okay, I hope I can finish this in less than 20 minutes. Okay, the title is Re-Territorializing Identity through Fromm's Existential Philosophy or Psychosocial Philosophy. Now, I'm going to show you a picture. Wala. Wala yung picture. Okay, anyway, Fromm defines identity as this way. Identity is the awareness of oneself as a separate entity. It is the feeling of I am, which makes decision, is aware of himself, his neighbor, as a different person. He must be able to sense himself as the subject of his actions. Commentators of Fromm define identity as the feeling of unity in oneself, in nature, and surrounding environment. It is to become the subject, which is the active force in the order of things, so on and so forth. So it is the I as an active force in society, which allows the individual to acquire the capacity towards self-consciousness. That is, I can determine my action through my conscious activity as an individual. Now, Fromm asked, how do I know that I am I? He says in Sane Society, this is the question which was raised in a philosophical form by Descartes. He answered the quest for identity by saying, I doubt, hence I think, hence I am. This answer put all emphasis on the experience of the I as a subject of my thinking activity, and failed to see that the I is experienced also in the process of feeling and creating action. Now, as far as creative action is concerned, Burston, a commentator of Fromm, says, and I quote, realizing that I have but one life to live, that no one experiences or acts in the world in precisely the same way I do, and that no one else is responsible for my choices I make, responsible for the choices I make, imparts a much greater sense of urgency, clarity, and resolve. So Erik Erikson, who is a contemporary of Fromm, defines identity as I am what I can will freely. So in other words, identity seen from the outside refers to some physical features, particular system of relations, and certain behavioral patterns. However, seen from the inside, identity is the natural experience of the self, that is my own understanding of my own position within a social network as a unique individual. Identity, therefore, is the passport to my self-legitimizing narrative of my own community, group, or nation. However, I argue that, quoting Robert Doon, the rapid expansion of mass media, the urbanization of the countryside, the standardization of life through mass consumption leads to the fluidity of the self, which now exhibits social continuity through normative patterning while simultaneously existing in a state of flux through social adaptation. In other words, what we have now in the 21st century, or the post-capitalist society or hyper-capitalist society, we have become, quoting Hewitt, we have become other-directed rather than inner-directed. So the point of identity is to give that self-esteem, to redeem that self-esteem, to give it back, to reground it again. Ang problema nga, yun nga, the modernity or post-modernity shattered this sense of I. So, according to Mahler in 1970, there is no constancy within. So, Fromm says, modernity creates a tremendous insecurity and helplessness, which push the individual to substitute his sense of identity and replace it with a pseudo-self. That is, the sum total of expectation others have about the individual. It is the loss, according to Lasch, it is the loss of identity which pushes us into a war of all against all. So, according to Fromm, if men differed in their basic and mental structure, how could we speak of humanity in more than a physiological and anatomical sense? How could we understand the art of entirely different cultures, their myths, their drama, their sculpture, were it not a fact that we share the same human nature? So reason, according to Fromm, requires relatedness and a sense of self. So this is now the regrounding. To reground identity is to relate oneself anew, to acquire that identity that was lost is to reground it in a certain, to recontextualize it. Another word is to re-localize it, or to re-situationalize it, or to use, to borrow Dr. Pau's term a while ago, it is an identity within that non-identical being. It is no longer the identity that modernity produced, but it is a localized identity. It is a relationship that I enter with you in order to reground my own being. That's now the identity which I am arguing. Psychoanalytically, relatedness, which is an existential form of regrounding identity, deals with the importance of the development of an authentic, vital sense of self, on the construction of personal meaning. What the patient needs, according to Safran, what the patient needs, or what we need now, is a revitalization and expansion of our capacity to generate experience that feels real, meaningful, and valuable world. So in this way, the regrounding of identity through relationship with the other is to come up with a situation, a community where we can at least grow and to become mature. Now the aim, I quote from here, the aim then would be to create a world situation, or to create a situation in which man gives his lifetime and energy to something which has meaning for him, in which he knows what he is doing, has an influence of what is being done, and feels united with, rather than separated from his fellow men. Why relatedness? It's just because from the psychoanalytic point of view, according to him, the moment that we are separated from our fellow individual, it is the brink of what you call insanity. A person who cannot relate himself, hindi tayo nakaka-relate, a person who cannot relate himself to a certain situation, or a person who is uprooted from that situation, result to what you call psychosis. So Fromm declares that such activity must come from within. I mean, the relationship, I enter into a certain kind of relationship with you because this generates rebirth. Now, what is this rebirth? It is always bringing forth something productive. It flows, and it flows in itself and beyond itself. This is what Erik Erikson calls the functioning psychological achievements of individuals, and limited by, as well as fitted to, the socio-historical moment in which that individual lives. In other words, to sum it all, Fromm says, and this is what I was telling Professor Alan a while ago, it is love. It is only love, a mature love, not erotic love, not romantic love, but the love that I want to give you. It is love that the experience of union with the other person, with all men, with nature, under the condition of retaining one sense of integrity and independence. So I enter into a relationship with you. It's just because of that paradigm, of that framework. Both of us want to grow. Both of us want to at least improve our life better. Now, the grounding of this is, it can only happen in what you call love. So Fromm gave this example. In order to grow, in order to become independent, in order to become mature, it must become more and more independent until the child does not need the mother anymore. Thus, the mother-child relationship is paradoxical, in a sense tragic. It requires the most intense love on the mother's side, and yet this very love must help the child to grow away from the mother and to become fully independent. So what I am arguing here is modernity shattered the I, modernity shattered the self. So what can we do now? We have to move on. Fromm says either we go back to the pre-genital stage wherein oral and anally fixated po tayo. By the way, I forgot to tell you, those who are anally fixated is characterized by dependency, submission, narcissism. Those who are anally fixated is too much possession. They want to acquire. That's why Fromm criticized industrial capitalism, because capitalism has these two characteristics, orally and anally fixated. So, according to Fromm, if the world is so frightening now, if the world is so chaotic, what do we do? Either we regress back to that orally and anally fixated situation, or we have to move on. Then Fromm suggests that we really need to move on, we really need to progress. But how do we progress? It is only through, that I am arguing here, through entering into an existential relationship with my fellow individual. And the basis of that is love. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Dr. Pacquing.